because we've been doing this for many years, we've seen an awful lot of ways that employers aren't properly paying their employees.
The thing that surprised me was the unpaid hours.
It's requiring people to do work that doesn't get recorded.
You really start at 8 o'clock, but you need to be here by 7.
Finding ways to make people work longer work hours where they're not being compensated.
And your day ends at 6, but you really need to stay to 8 to close up the business, this or that. And no, we don't pay for that. That's just it's too bad.
Sometimes people are told by their employer that these pay practices are legal. We've checked them out. Listen, we know what's right. This is the way it is. This is what the law is. And it's just not the case.
Employers pay their employees a salary without paying them overtime, and that's a huge violation.
They tell their employees, you're paid by a salary so you don't get overtime. That's not true.
When you should get time and a half for anything that's over 40.
Just because you're paid a salary doesn't mean you're not due overtime. The calculation for overtime might be a little bit different. But being paid a salary and being exempt are two very different things.
And there's the time shaving incidents.
The hours you actually clocked in and out aren't the hours you get paid
Sometimes
for.
it's a supervisor, sometimes it is the timekeeping system itself automatically deducts time or doesn't allow employees to record the time that they're actually working.
Off the clock work you have to do that you can't even clock in for.
And all of those things are illegal. Treating people as independent contractors when they're truly employees.
People having to buy and own the equipment that it takes to do the job.
It has to be a certain type, a certain size, a certain color even.
And then the time it takes to maintain the tools they're not allowed to record because it's their equipment.
They spend more money on their expenses that they spend doing their job than they get paid.
I think one of the exceptional things about this firm actually is how much time we're willing to spend on intake phone calls. On people who just call us to say, here's what's happening. Can you listen to my story?
One of the paralegals will take the call. We'll get as much information as we can about what their working situation is, how their hours are kept track of, how they're paid, any questions that they have about whether it's legal or not. It's a completely confidential phone call. And we usually say, okay, I'll check with the attorney and I'll call you back.
I mean, the attorneys here do research into the law to give people information.
We don't pressure anybody to bring a case here who doesn't want to bring the case themselves. We're happy to talk out what your rights are, give you advice.
The second call is usually, well, the attorney had 10 more questions that I didn't ask you that I need to know in order to figure out whether this is legal or not. And then, it's an ongoing process of trying to figure out with the person who has called whether they have a legal claim for wages or whether they don't. But I think the thing that's important for people to know is that we will take the time to listen, and there's no obligation. It's completely confidential. You can just check it out.
The law prohibits retaliation against people for
Yeah,
joining
that doesn't-
lawsuits, bringing lawsuits, raising with their employers that there's a concern about the legality of the pay system. All of these activities are protected by law.
Employers are not allowed to retaliate against someone for bringing their claims. And there's civil damages for that. So there's money damages if that happens.
The corporate penalties for retaliation are so high that we have seen some instances of the opposite, of people in lawsuits receiving better protection from the employer because of the fear of, on the employer's part, of being accused of retaliation.
If there is any threat of retaliation, we can deal with it.
There's no cost to people at all. There's no upfront charge or cost at all.
An employee can bring the case from start to finish without paying costs and without paying legal fees to have top flight lawyers handling their case.
The law says that at the end of the day, if we win, then that employer has to pay our fees.
There's no cost to people through that whole process until the very end if we're successful on their behalf.
Because we as a firm only get paid if we do win it, we screen cases very carefully. So if we do come to the point of deciding to file a case with someone, that would mean that our best evaluation is that the chances of success are very high.
What we see over and over again is people contacting us who say, you know what, I worked for this employer for all these years, and this always bothered me, and it just never felt right. It's not about the money, and it's not about me. It's not right, and I want to see everybody else get paid what they deserve.